What up? It's your boy Black Zach, and I am here to bring you the first episode of Marathon Mondays. So before we get into what Marathon Mondays is, I would be remiss to not introduce my guest. One of my college alums, right, from the Livingstone College, coming all the way from Brooklyn, New York, right? A member of Delta Sigma Theta, right?
Yeah.
Sorority Incorporated, right?
Yep.
A young lady who has paved her own way, who is a trailblazer in not just the fashion journalism industry, but now she is taking over the social media industry and has just got a big promotion with the LA Times. So listen, I want y'all to put y'all hands together for my girl, my homie, a fellow Blue Bear herself, coming all the way from under thy maples and thy oaks, Candace Amos. What's cracking, Miss Amos?
Thank you so much for the warm welcome. I'm so excited to be here on your podcast, on your show. So yeah, let's get into this conversation.
All right, we definitely gonna get into it. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, this is the first episode of Marathon Mondays, and so what Marathon Mondays is, I am trying to tap in with all the young professionals who are entrepreneurs, who are trailblazing in corporate America, who are influencers on social media, and I want not just to interview them and get to know who they are and give them their roses, but I also want them to be able to educate, our audience on some things, on some do's and don'ts. Like for example, you are popping in the social media industry, you know how to build a social media brand, as well as you're a journalist, you've done crime, you've done fashion, so you know a lot about the journalism industry. So what we want to do is allow you to educate not just young men and women, but especially the young African American women about some of the things that journalism entails. Is that cool with you?
Yeah, I'm excited.
All right, before we can get into it, right, we got to talk about some of these trending topics. So I know you're familiar with Kim Potter, the police officer who shot Dante Wright in Minneapolis last year. She was convicted. She was found guilty, so that was a victory within itself. But she was just sentenced. She got her sentence, and she was only sentenced to 24 months in prison. So, that is definitely a slap in the face. To me, it just feels like the justice system is continuously failing the minorities, especially the Black and brown minorities and people of on the lower end of the economic spectrum. So it's continuously heartbreaking, but unfortunately for me, I'm becoming numb to it because we see this happening all the time, and I don't know if that's a good thing. What about you?
Right. Yeah. Unfortunately, I feel like the system is built to protect police. So this is like a small victory, but it just shows that we have so much, such a long road to go to get progress and to actually get justice. And it's heartbreaking, especially as a mother who's raising a Black son. I'm afraid, I'm afraid about different environments I'm putting him in. Like I'm looking at moving to LA, and LA is, filled with crime. The police are like crazy out there. If you've been like following the news, like these officers in LA, they've been shooting citizens and not really facing any repercussions for their actions. So it's really sad, and it's just sad. I've been numb to all of this since Trayvon Martin. I have not. That was the last case I just really just broke down and cried. But ever since then, and seeing that justice wasn't doled out in that case, I've just become numb to it. I guess it's like a protection for me, because otherwise I would just fall apart.
Right, you definitely have some form of PTSD, just continuously, and it's like they replay these type of incidents on the news daily. So like you have to relive watching, Eric Gardner die, or reliving Trayvon Martin screaming for help over the telephone. You have to relive these moments, and the bad part about it, not only do we have to relive these moments on TV, but for some of us, this is an actual reality. With our interactions with the police, and a lot of times they're not positive. So that's definitely a sad situation. Moving on, there's some other things we need to talk about, like the baby. Us being from Carolina, from the 704. The baby is definitely he has been trending. Not just in the music industry. So we know about the whole situation with Danny Lee and her brother. And, to me, I know like I knew a lawsuit. Somebody told that boy, go ahead and file a lawsuit and get some money because you got beat up. And it just looks like it was a setup when you look at it because he was by himself. But it's
Mm-hmm.
like, to me, like, you can't threaten somebody verbally on the internet and tell them, like, when I see you, it's on site. I want to shoot the fade. And then, you know what I'm saying? And then when you see them, you don't have that same energy. So it's like,
It's sad his actions didn't back up his words. And
right,
unfortunately, the whole world got to see him get his ass whooped. But I feel like as an artist at the baby's caliber, like you should know better at this point. Like
right,
you already know that you're a target and people are gonna come for you because they know that you're hot headed and you can't control your temper. So
right.
I feel like he fell into the trap and he's gonna have to pay this man some money. And unfortunately, he just let his emotions get the best of him. Like, why are you gonna do it at this crowded, event in this bowling
Well,
alley with cameras
right.
everywhere, bloggers everywhere? Like, come on,
Everywhere, right? So
know better. I feel so
we
bad
should.
for his daughter because what kind of relationship is he now gonna have with Danny Lee? Because I wouldn't, trust him around my kid. That is his child, but it's like
So would you trust the uncle around the kid too if he's making verbal threats across the internet? And
I mean,
I'm
she's
not
the
taking up for
sole
the baby.
provider of the child. She's already said that she's the sole provider. So I think that she knows who to have around her kid. But the baby, if it gets down to the court system, they're gonna play that tape. And anything he can say to kind of prove himself as a responsible dad goes out the window because you just lost your temper right there. Like that's evident
Facts.
in court.
Facts. Facts.
So
I mean,
he just needs to
well,
be better. He's so talented, and it's sad to see him go out like that.
well, I know he has money for a great legal team, so hopefully his lawyers do, what they are paid to do. What's up with your boy Kanye?
Kanye. Okay, so you know what's crazy? I actually watched the Netflix documentary that he had. Did you see it
Right.
yet?
Yes, I have. I've watched it twice, and I
So
am a fan.
good. And see, let me tell you, I was a diehard Kanye West fan growing up. Like, I still have pictures where my mom took me and my brothers to his concert, and we had them little shutter sunglasses on. You remember the joints that he
Right.
kind of made
Yes.
popular? Like, I used to listen to I used to love him. But once he got with Kim, I was like, nah, I can't rock with you. Because to me, Kanye always represented a person in the industry of integrity, just his upbringing, his mom, and that came across. But for him to fall into that shallow trap of dating a Kardashian, it was a turn off for me. And I really haven't been checking with him since.
I mean,
So,
I totally understand that, but I think you can attribute that to, Kanye losing, probably the most significant Black woman, in his life, and so misguided, you know what I mean? Like, it would be easy for him to fall into that trap. You know what I'm
right.
saying? With nobody not being in his ear to be like, hey, Kanye, watch out for that. You know what I'm saying? Like, they are Black man eaters. They are culture vultures. Like, they're going to latch onto you. So hopefully, Kanye comes around. But one thing I can say, Kanye is a he is just a creative genius, especially a marketing genius, because you look at, since all of this stuff's happened, Kanye has been popping every day on social media.
Oh
And then
yeah.
you look up, he drops a documentary, right?
Mhm.
And so, like, it's going to be trending because he stayed relevant. Now his antics, we can agree to disagree, but when you look at marketing, right, in your field, all
Mhm.
press is good press for a person like Kanye,
Oh
right?
yeah, this is definitely a good look for him. I mean, but the crazy part, so it's unfortunate how the relationship has kind of come to an end. It's really unfortunate because he's battling this mental illness. So yes, he's a jerk, but he also has
Right.
this issue that he can't control. So it's just so sad. And you get to see in that documentary how talented he is. This man has like raw talent. Like you cannot touch him.
Listen, oh my God, like, it makes me want to question, like, is is Kanye better than Dr. Dre when we talk about
Mm.
producing? Because, like, we can say that Dre has definitely had his impact on the rap culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you and even the R&B culture, because he's worked with Mary J and others. But
Mm-hmm.
when you look at Kanye, like his imprint on like hip hop, like good music, like his imprints with Drake, his imprints with Jay-Z, his imprints with Scarface. When you look at like him like really behind the scenes as a producer, like is it really like are they on the same level now?
Yeah.
Because Kanye has impacted the culture. Like what other rapper has gone over and sold out with Nike, has sold out with Adidas, like
Mm-hmm.
what other rapper can tap into fashion and sell out? Like Kanye is a mogul now.
He's untouchable. He really is. And in that documentary, when they spoke about Jesus Walks and how there was never a rap record that sounded like that. Like that's just a testament to just how he's a true trailblazer and he is like a boundary breaker. And I don't honestly think that he's better than Drake. That's my honest opinion because he's revolutionary. He pushes the boundaries and it works every time.
Right. Last but not least in these trending topics, Riri is preggers. Right? How you feel about that? You know you probably ain't getting no music now for a little minute.
I know. That's another person I've been a diehard fan of for so long. Honestly, you know what? I'm happy for her, but for me, I guess the 21-year-old with me would be like losing my mind right now. But now I'm just like, okay, girl, congrats. You're a billionaire, you're pregnant, wonderful. But I know that Rihanna is an excellent businesswoman and she has planned this out. Like this was not
Right.
just a random fluke. Whatever people are trying to like frame it. Oh, what did ASAP Rocky do or whatever? Like she knows what she's doing. So I wish her well, and I know this is gonna be a beautiful baby.
Yes, it is. All right, so now that we're into that, like, let's really dive into some things. So, first things first, first section we're gonna talk about who is Candace, who is Miss Amos. I know we from Brooklyn. You went to a HBCU. You're a mom. You got your hand in the fashion industry. You rubbing elbows with top notch people now. You know what I'm saying? You don't even get to sleep. You take cat naps now. So, like, who are you? You know what I'm saying? Let us know what's going on. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so you know what? It's crazy that I feel like I finally have an answer to that question. So I am definitely a risk taker. Like I'm the type of person where I may get an opportunity that's super intimidating and I will like struggle with it for like a few days, but I'm going to go for it every time. I'm going to go for it every time and I'm going to make the most of that opportunity. And I feel like by being a risk taker, it has guided my career and has put me in, these rooms that otherwise I would not have been in without just seeing myself and being able to just go out there and do something that's out of the box, something that I really need support for, but sometimes I don't have that support and I have to tap into my own, support for myself, I guess, if that makes sense. But yeah, I'm a risk taker through and through.
So is that the New York in you?
No,
Being a risk taker. That's not the Brooklyn in you. That's
that's the
not the.
opposite of New York. You want to know why? Because there's so many people back home in New York that are still in New York that have never tried to
Mm,
do anything with their lives. So it's the opposite of that. I would
okay.
say for me, like graduating Livingstone, like I'm forever grateful for the experience we had at Livingstone. It was something like no other, and I'm so grateful for all of the family members I came out of that school with. But leaving Livingstone and really facing my future and figuring out, okay, Candace, what do you want to do? Who do you want to be in this world? And just seeing that I just had a love for the word, for language, for books, magazines, whatever form it came in. I just really had a love for writing. So I pursued that path, and it was something that I had to really just do on my own. And I'm so grateful that I took that journey.
So you're an English major.
Yes. Hmm.
Ooh, so you can write.
Man, English was yeah. I listen. I've always been a writer. Even in high school, my major in high school was creative writing. So
Okay. So you had a writing background. So like that influenced you, you know, to get into the fashion, well, I'm pretty sure from like being New York, being like a fashion capital, like fashion is just something that like you'll definitely be intrigued with, but like writing and then combining your passion of fashion with that. Okay, so that kind of leads us into our next segue. So like you're an English major. Like how did you get in the fashion industry as far as journalism? Like for the most part, when you think of an English major, you think, okay, like you're gonna be a English teacher, you'll be a college professor. You don't necessarily see a person like, you know, hey, I'm going to be a fashion journalist. So how did you get into that?
Yeah, so I was able, so first off, I always had a love for magazines. And for some reason, it was always fashion magazines. I just love when you read a story just to kind of see how it all comes together, from the photography to, that interview with whoever the celebrity is that is featured, just everything. So I was just really just attracted to that from the get. But how I got involved is when I graduated, I actually met someone who happened to be my soror. She was into magazines. And I had no experience at that time. And the thing was that you had to have an internship or two under your belt to be able to get anywhere in this industry. If you didn't have any experience, that was it. But luckily, I met her. So we built a friendship, and she's like, you know what? I'm gonna help you out. I'm gonna look out for you. We're gonna figure this thing out. And at that point, she had interned at Essence Magazine and Money Magazine, all these magazines. And I had nothing under my belt. But she actually ended up working as an editorial assistant at Working Mother Magazine. And, she told me to apply for an internship position that was open, and I applied and I got it. And the rest was history, pretty much.
So you hit the ground running. So you're like you blazing trails, you out here, you know, setting your own path. So I mean, I see you mentioned the word intern, right? And so what we're going to tap into how important the internship is, but what are some of the internships that you had, you know, that you were able to experience in your journey?
Yeah, so Working Mother Magazine, so that was like a trial intern. So my title there was lifestyle intern. So I wrote health articles, I did some fashion shoots, beauty content, things like that. So after I did that internship, I decided that I wanted to go into fashion just like full throttle. So
Right,
after that, I interned at Time Out New York magazine, which it was at the time a weekly magazine in New York. And I was a fashion intern. So when that internship really just, I was like, okay, this is for me. When I came into it, I was covering Fashion Week. I was doing photo shoots, and it was amazing. I just loved it. I never forget my first Fashion Week. I was like with all of these celebrities, like at private parties, like it's like
okay,
brownstone
okay.
you walk past in New York City, but it's a club underneath. So it was things like that, and everything was free, and free drinks, free swag, everything. And I mean, like I would leave these internships with like garbage bin full of like clothes and makeup, just all free that I could use. So I love that part of it. It was like a luxurious type of, vibe. And in addition to the grunt work that I had to do, because I also had to like lug around like all of these clothes on the subway. So it was like a grind. It was like, okay, if you
Right,
want to have the luxurious life, you have to put up with all of this crap. So low pay, no pay, and everything that came along with it. But you had these opportunities that I can just put on my resume that would just give me more credibility. So I did Time Out New York, and then I said, okay, we're gonna do this fashion thing for real. So I went to a
right.
real fashion. This is like super fashion, where everyone was walking around pretty much a size zero, not talking to you, like Devil Wears Prada fashion. Okay. So this
Right.
one was Zinc magazine, and I was also drawn to the photography, and this photography was just on another level. These shoots were just styled out of this world. So I got there and I hated it. I was like, oh god, how many more weeks? I can't take it. It was just, I was like, this is way too much. I gotta find a happy medium because y'all like extreme. So I did that. That was an experience. I didn't enjoy it, but those three internships definitely set me up for how I would move around the journalism industry. And I knew that it took a lot of hard work. So there were so many people that I started off with that just left the industry. Like, I ain't putting up with this bullshit. They not paying me. I ain't got time for it. I was like, no, I'm going to get another job on the side. I'm going to do whatever I can to make it. So it was kind of, if you think about like America's Next Top Model, it kind of felt like that because you always seeing people drop off or go in different directions. But I just stayed the course, and yeah.
That's what's up. So, okay, after the internship, so before we segue into the professional aspect of your career, let me ask you this question: in your experience, post college and pre professional career, how important are internships, especially for college students who may be pursuing a career, let's say, like in the legal field, in like athletic administration field, in a field like journalism? In your opinion, how important are internships?
So this is a great question, and I'm so happy you asked it.
You see, I'm trying to get this thing down, right? I'm trying to be like the ghetto Brian Gumble.
Nobody talks about this, and this is so important. So I'm going to say this: internships were different in 2007 compared to now. So in 2007, when you intern, a lot of times you would not get paid for the work you would do, and you would be working like a full-time staffer, with no paycheck. But they made a law, actually, I think it was like around 2012 it was either 2012, 2014, where actually like Condé Nast, that's like one of the biggest magazine publishers in the world, they actually had a class action lawsuit filed against them from all of these like unpaid internships. And after that, the court system was like, we're not doing this no more. You have to pay people. So pre that era, I would say that internships were crucial, and they were a good thing because it's like, okay, boom, I can dedicate, 4 hours a day working for free, getting that experience, and I can put it on my resume. But nowadays, it's pretty much shunned. Like, no one will like tell you to do an unpaid internship. Everyone tells you to get paid to do something. So I say that if you can land a paid internship doing exactly what you want to do, then you should definitely do it, especially if you're coming straight out of college. I think a lot of people, they come out of college and they feel like, oh, I got my degree, I'm the shit now, I don't have to do anything. But you still do. You need actual work experience. If you don't have work experience, how do you expect to land a job? So I would say there's a balance. And now people should look for interns that actually pay, that treat you well, because I've heard some horror stories about people just not being able to eat. It's all kinds of crazy stuff. It's like slavery. So I would say go with a reputable company, a company that's going to compensate you for your work.
Okay. All right. Most definitely. I did a few interns in college, so I see the benefits, but now it's like, I'm like you, man, with the way the cost of living is and things like that. You can't be out here doing free work. Like, you need to be compensated. So let's transition into this professional career now. Before we, as I talked to you earlier, as I got my questions together, because I'm trying to be the consummate professional in this, trying to be. So you let me know how I'm doing, all right? Because you're the journalism major. This is not my field, right? This is a hobby, right? You landed a job with the New York Post. Now, that is a household name. Tell us about your experience with the New York Post, right? Like, let us know about
that. Must we talk about the New York Post? Okay. This is a question that is throwing me for a loop because, honestly speaking, some of the most depressing years of my career were my time at the New York Post. I suffered with... So if internships were bad, I would say my time at the New York Post was probably like times 10 of that. It was a poor relationship, and I really had to develop this inner grit to be able to wake up and go to work every day. So one of my, like the editor at that company, he was mean. He was just mean. Like, I'll never forget, he yelled at me one day in his office for no reason. And I was just like, what the heck? Like, yeah. So it was really brutal. But again, my determination was like, I'm not going to let you push me off this ship. I'm going to stay here and we're going to get this work done, and I'm going to go about my business. So the thing about the New York Post, so I started there as an editorial assistant, making minimum wage. I was also a reporter. So whenever there was like a late breaking like story, if there was like a fire in the Bronx or a shooting in Brooklyn, they would like send me to all these locations to interview people. And it was hard. It was hard.
So
I
like you was like a beat street. So like you was
I
out
was
there like hi, this is Candace
no,
Amos
not
with your
that,
late night.
not that, not that. But you know what? It was me and it was always me and a photographer.
Right.
And working with the photographers, it was always awkward because it was always like an older white man. So I'm spending 12 hours a day with an older white man, as a young black girl dealing with small talk. It was weird. Okay. They would send me like one time they sent me to a shooting in Coney Island in the projects while I was still in progress. Okay, there was somebody shooting someone from like the 20th floor, shooting down at people. It was crazy. I remember. Do you remember the football star Plaxico Burress when he
Yes.
shot himself? I was on
Yeah.
that story. They sent him. They
Word.
sent him to his house, his mansion, and it was crazy. It was raining. I stayed there all night in my car waiting for him to come out, because he had to go to his arraignment the next day. And it was crazy. And I was just like, what in the world? I was scared because I was just like, yo, these men got guns. Like, I'm not trying to get shot out here. But that was like one of it was like thrilling and it was also scary. Like when I left his house and I was making my way back to New York, it was like a downpour. It was like raining so hard. And when it's raining, like the trees be falling or whatever. So I was like driving home and a tree had fell probably like 10 minutes earlier than where I was. And I was like, wow, if I'd have left 10 minutes earlier, I could have got smashed by this tree. So it's just little things like that. I was so traumatized from that experience, but I was also grateful because,
Right.
again, that's just another thing that I could say that I conquered in this industry. But those were my early years at the New York Post. Where I ended up was in the features department. So then I was back to, the glamorous life. So I was doing, entertainment columns. Like I interviewed Eve. And these were like big feature stories that were in the paper and print.
Okay. All right.
I remember interviewing Eve while she was in London. She called me from London and I was like, oh my God, this is Eve. And I actually, when she came to the States, we actually hung out. And I was like, oh my God.
Word.
I'm like,
So
Eve,
so
right
like
now.
you cool, huh? Like you're
You
like
don't
the cool
remember me,
journalist.
but we were cool. Like her publicist was like, yeah, we love the story. Come hang out with us. We got a show tonight. I went to the show. It was just crazy. I interviewed Nia Long. She had a big feature in the paper, and I still have pictures with her. She was amazing. I interviewed Kiki Palmer. So that's when I was like, you know what? All of that bullshit was worth it because I get to do what I really love to do, which is like write my own stories. And I was able to pitch these stories because I was the only Black person in that department.
So
So
like how is that? So like let's tap into that. Like let's really get to the nitty gritty. Like so like not only are you the only Black person, you're the only Black woman in that room. How do you maneuver in a room like that? Because in today, with African American women, blazing trails and setting their own destiny, a lot of times they're in rooms where they're the only person that looks like them. So, how were you able to win a room and matriculate professionally, being the only Black woman in these rooms at times?
yeah, that has been a challenge in this industry. There's not a lot of us. And I would say actually it's hard. I would be constantly code switching all day to the point where I felt like I code switched so much that it affected my own personality because I didn't know how to even really be, when it was time to just be myself away from work. So I was constantly code switching and just staying to myself. So that's probably how I was able to survive, by being able to put my head down and do my work, because to this day, I hate small talk. Whenever someone tries to like have a random I just get turned off because it feels like I'm at work because that's all I had to do, all day
Right.
long, engage in these stupid conversations. And even now, it's a struggle, but I think that you work through it. And I think that at the end of the day, it's about the work for me. And I'm in a position where I can put other Black women and people on. Like my former company that I just left, my whole team was diverse, and I hired each
So
and every one of them.
so where did you come from? So we know you were at the New York Post. You did some time now. You and I are friends on social media. So you made a big jump from New York to Houston. You
Yeah.
were down in the 713. You were down in the screwed up country, candy paint, popping trunk, elbows poking out the side of the caddies. Like, so well, how was that culture shock? Because that's definitely a culture shock.
It was
You
not a
really got
culture shock at all. It was just like a welcome, just like, I can finally breathe. Um, that's how it felt, because you know what? In the pandemic in 2020, I was in I was living in Jersey City in a
right,
two-bedroom apartment. And, prior to the shutdown, I was commuting to, New York every day, which was like, okay, it's a few train stops away, but it's still like mentally taxing on your mind, just everything that you go through. But
right,
I decided that I didn't want to live by my company's standards anymore, because I was just like, hold on, wait. I'm freaking doing my work to the best of my ability. Actually, like, I'm super productive and I'm working from home. I do not have to work here. So I just felt like, you know what, Candace, let's research. Let's do some research. Let's look at cities in the US that, are known for like thriving Black neighborhoods and communities and stuff like that. And actually, it was between Georgia, it was between Maryland and Texas. And
okay,
I researched cities in all of these states, and I was just like, okay, I knocked Georgia out the box early. I was like, nah, I'm not doing Georgia. I almost did Maryland, but I actually wanted to buy a house. That was my whole purpose of this. So I looked at Maryland, and something about those houses just wasn't doing it for me. But then I actually visited Texas, and I fell in love. I was like, oh my God, this is
did you fall in love with the food
I fell in
first?
love
Like,
with everything. The
okay,
food,
the
the
food
house,
is good.
the houses. Like, I just love the way that the houses are so well. They're not unique. They're very uniform down here, but they're unique to what you see around the country. So just
Right.
like the stone around the houses and how people's yards are nice, and I was like, I like this, And the good thing is that my fiance's dad, he lives here. So he was just like, why don't y'all just come visit? I never thought to come down here until I was searching, and I was like, oh wow, yeah. So we came, and it was just like, all right, let's just do this. This is crazy. This is one of the craziest moves we're gonna make. Let's just do it. So then I found a realtor. I found
Right.
her on Instagram,
Okay.
and she literally, I just was looking at, I'm the type of person, if I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it. So I found her on Instagram. We sat on the phone for like an hour, and she was really just like trying to figure out, what I was really looking for. And the fact that she put so much effort into the process, I was like, okay, you're the realtor for me. So I started looking in, I want to say May, or it was like April or May. And I came down here in July, and I put my money down for a house like 2 weeks later, and then 3 months later my house was ready, and I got a new build. It was built from the ground up, so I'm the first person to live in this house. And yeah, I'm just, yeah, that's
Black
me.
girl, black girl magic. Okay. All
Yes.
right. So that's like your first. That's like your first breaking. So let me ask you this. You said you did some interviews, right?
Mhm.
What was like what was your favorite interview?
Of all time,
Right.
damn, that's a hard question, and I don't even know the answer to that question.
So we can revisit that. I don't want
Okay, yeah, let's revisit it, because everybody I just love. Man, so many people I've spoken to.
to. All right. So look, I have a couple questions I just want to ask you. You know what I'm saying? What has been some of the biggest lessons you've learned while building your brand? Because right now, um, you're in you said you're looking at moving to LA. Like I said, congratulations on you. So exactly what is your new position with the LA Times?
Yeah, so I am the deputy editor of social media. So basically, I'm like the chief strategist in charge of our social media strategy. I also manage a team there. And yeah, so like any type of project that involves social media, they pull me in, they ask me for my insights, and I plan like social events. Like this week was a big week for LA with the Super Bowl. So I was, highly engaged with everything from the actual game to the parade and helping, plan our strategy on social for that. So
Mm. That's what's so now. Like, let me ask you this because it seems like you are a woman of many hats in this journalism field. So we see fashion, you've done crime, you've done interviews, entertainment interviews. How did you get into the social media situation? How did you find your realm in that?
yes. So I actually switched over to social media at a time where there were a lot of layoffs in journalism. And I
Hmm.
found that social media was the one industry that was able to sustain in all of these waves of layoffs because social media is real skill and a lot of people didn't take the time out to really learn it. So I felt like in a wave of all of these layoffs, this is the one lane I can enter in that I can't be moved in. So actually I was working at Us Weekly magazine at the time, and I was hired by the Daily News to help them with their social media strategy. So I was their social media editor, and I was really lucky. I started working there in 2015. I left in 2018. I finally got laid off in 2018. And that was like hard because they like cut 50% of the staff at once. But
Ooh,
I decided that I would stay in social media because it was a lane where I can really be a pioneer in. And since then, TikTok has popped up and all of these new, platforms, Snapchat wasn't as big and all of these different lanes have popped up. So I'm actually happy that I'm able to, create a strategy, execute, and kind of see the success of those strategies for news publishers because it's really just it's a challenge, but I'm excited. I'm excited for it.
all right. So, what has been some of the biggest lessons that you've learned while building your brand? Like I said, you seem to like have your imprint on a lot of things come journalism. So, in your opinion, what has been like the biggest lesson you've learned while building your brand?
Okay, the biggest lesson I have learned is one is probably to be careful about who you partner up with.
Mm.
So I actually had a project that I did, I want to say like in 2018, and it was with a former coworker who, was my friend at the time, and we're not enemies, we're just not friends anymore. Um, but it didn't work. See, again, with me, my drive, I'm the type of person like, look, I'm gonna keep trying. But
Right,
everyone doesn't have that same level of commitment. And she was like one of those people, like, all right, well, I'm gonna do something else because I ain't it's too much. So I would just say just be careful about who you partner up with. And sometimes you may not need to partner up with anyone. You can do what you want to do on your own. So a
right.
lot of times we'll look for like team member. We don't need that. You got everything you need yourself. You just need to kind of dedicate the time to make it happen. So yeah, that's probably my biggest lesson so far.
That's what's up. Okay, so my next question, right? How hard is it balancing a profession, motherhood, and soon to be a marriage, all while staying on top of your game in corporate America? Because like that has to be black girl magic. You know what I mean? Like to be able to be up front and center and be at the top of your game in all facets of your life. Like how hard is that to be able to do that?
It's extremely hard. It's hard. Oh my gosh. I always say that this year, this era right now is probably the most challenging, especially with my son. People always talk about the terrible twos, but nobody talks about four. Four is hard. Four is worse than two. Two is a cakewalk. Okay, my son be taking me through it, and the most challenging things is taking care of your responsibilities, and sometimes that means like putting things that you want to do to the side. So for me, I have always been a morning person. I'm able to kind of wake up at like between 5 and 6 and do my little workout, and I'll do my little exercise for like 2 hours and then get started with work. But recently, my schedule is now flipped. So now I'm the one taking my son to school every day. And that is like, that's so hard. Getting him up in the morning, getting him dressed, that's a chore. So I would say that it's not easy. And if anybody goes into this thinking it's going to be easy, you're fooling yourself because it's hard. And I know I've probably aged by like 10 years this year alone. I'm telling you, it's difficult. And I know why some people talk about, I don't want to have kids. Listen, if that's how you feel, take your time because it ain't no cakewalk. It's hard.
That's what's up. Okay, so we're kind of coming to the close, right? I have a few more things. My last question though, what advice would you give to aspiring journalists, especially women of color, about your profession?
Okay. Okay, so one piece of it, well, actually, I have several pieces. All right, so one piece is learn how to network, learn how to build a community, and actually use that community. Not take advantage. You want to give to that community, but you want to actually work with people to be able to get what you want. So many people feel like, oh, well, I've done the work. This is my resume. I should be able to get all the things. But you have to actually build authentic relationships.
Right.
And it took me a long time to know what that looks like. But, an authentic relationship is somebody that you can talk to outside of work. Everything doesn't have to be work. Sometimes it's like, hey, girl, what you doing? I want to go to this new winery. Do you want to go with me and we'll go hang out? And then you can talk about work there. But so many of us just turn into robots, and then we don't realize why our personalities aren't clicking or connecting to other people because you've allowed yourself to be this little news nerd, So I would say definitely don't lose your personality, learn how to network and learn how to be a friend so that you can have friends when you need them. My second piece of advice is to learn how to carve your own lane. You gonna go through some dry spells, and it's gonna be some times where you're not getting the opportunities that you need, and that's when you need to tap into your own entrepreneurial spirit, your own creativity. For me, it was like when I was going through those times where it's just like, damn, nothing's working. Let me create my own little website and let me write my own blogs or whatever, because I know that I'm already trained in this area. I can run an interview. I can write a feature story. So I don't need anybody's permission to do so.
Okay.
And actually, whenever I'm in interviews with people will bring that up. Like, oh, I saw what you wrote on 32. But I'm like, oh, Lord. Like, and they're impressed by my work. And I'm just like, this is not even a professional level of work because it wasn't edited by anyone, anything like that. So I would say don't wait for that job to kind of like start working in this industry. You should be working every day, job or not.
Okay. All right, cool. So I appreciate that advice. So like listen, so like now we have to get into like the little fun part. You know me, I am a jokester, I am a funster. So first off, being the fact that we went to college, what is the craziest or funniest thing you see me do while we was at Livingstone College?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I feel like you just being in the calf was funny. I feel like you have always been a jokester and everybody knows your personality. I can't pinpoint one. I honestly cannot pinpoint one thing, but
that is good because I do not want to be embarrassed on my first episode of Marathon Mondays. So that's good. Thank you for looking out for that. Now listen, I have to ask you a question, right? Mm-hmm. Right on the spot. You can't think, right? You cannot think. I don't need you to ponder on this. I need you to be swift on your toes, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Your top 5 MCs out of New York right now.
Oh my gosh. Oh, this is not fair. Right? Living, dead, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Just your top 5. Okay, they don't have to be right now. They don't have to be from this generation. Okay, Biggie.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so people will probably hate me for this, but I have to throw Nicki in there and Kim.
Okay.
Foxy.
Okay.
Biggie. Is that it? Is that?
Yeah, because you went you went Biggie, Foxy,
Lil Kim,
Nicki, and Jay-Z.
Yeah. So, Sorry
okay.
to the others.
Out of New York. I understand. I mean, you got to represent for the females. They're trailblazers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, listen, Miss Amos, I appreciate this. I really do appreciate this. You know me, I am trying to venture off into new things, and I would be remiss if I couldn't get you on my show watching one of my former Blue Bears like pave her way, blaze her own trail in the journalism industry. So to know, like, I have a friend at like LA Times who was like rubbing elbows with the important people that is putting Livingstone on the map. Like, I am so happy. I am rooting for you.
Oh,
So
and I got my Stone shirt in case.
oh yeah, let them see that. You know what I'm saying? They didn't know. You know what I'm saying? You definitely have to represent. So you see, you know what I'm saying? So like, I'm a fashion designer now. You know, I'm like Kanye
You doing the damn
2.0.
thing.
I am trying. Listen, the lessons I've learned, you know what I'm saying? I need somebody to follow me around with a camera one day. You know what I mean? But we are definitely humbled that, you know, you took the time to kick it with us. You know, the information that you presented, it could definitely be useful, not just for young women, but for young men. I'm glad to see a person in the HBCU sector killing it in corporate America, because we need to go ahead and, you know, kill that misconceptions that African Americans from smaller schools don't thrive well. Like, I really feel like we're the backbones of your corporate America. We're so diverse. We're so resourceful. We know how to get things done. We're part of the old generation and new generation, so we know how to bridge the gap. So, you know, I just want to give you your flowers while you're here. I really appreciate the time, you know, that you took to kick it with me and the Exactly My Point podcast crew. This is the first episode of Marathon Monday, so, you know, listen, when I get big and I get some followers, you know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta shout me out on your social media one time.
Of course. Well, thank you so much. And you guys, if you want to get in touch with me, you can follow me on Twitter or Instagram. I'm at Candace Amos. So if you have any questions about, you know, journalism or just, you know, being a boss, if that's what you want to call it, definitely DM me, and I would love to kind of offer you some advice.
That's what's up. Well, thank you so much, Miss Amos. I'm gonna let you go ahead and get out of here. I want you to enjoy the rest of your weekend. And again, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.